Good afternoon, radio fans. Big Al here on this Monday, August 4th, 2025, and we're continuing a look at the June 2025 radio ratings from across the country. And today we'll be looking at the Boston, Seattle, Tacoma, and Miami, Fort Lauderdale markets. So with that, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, ring the bell, and get notified every time I go live. And here we go. As we'll be starting off with the number 10 market in the country, Boston, Massachusetts. And these ratings from Nielsen are courtesy of Radio Insight. And looks like we have a tie for the top spot in the Boston radio market, with iHeartMedia's News Talker, WBZ News Radio 1030, which is WBZ AM, and Odyssey's adult contemporary station, Magic 106.7 WMJX, both tied at a 5.7. WBZ went up from a 5.3 in May, while WMJX saw just a little decline from a 5.8. Cumulative audience for WBZ AM is 345,700, while for WMJX is 866,900. Magic 106.7's sister Hot AC station, Mix 104.1 WWBX, takes the third spot, moving up from a 4.8 to a 5. Or rather from a 5.0 to a 5.3. And they have a cumulative audience of 515,200. Taking fourth place is Beasley Broadcast Group's classic hits station, 105.7 WROR, up from 4.8 to a 5.1. They're actually tied for fourth in the market with iHeartRadio Classic Rocker 100.7 WZLX, which fell from a 5.3 to a 5.1. So there's your fourth place tie. Cumulative audience is 704,300 for WROR and 563,300 for WZLX. Taking sixth place is the local NPR. Is one of two NPR news stations in Boston, and it's 90.9 WBUR from Boston University, slipping from a 5.1 to a 5.0, and a cumulative audience of 317,800. In seventh place is Odyssey Sports Station, Sports Radio 93.7 WEEI FM, up from a 4.6 to a 4.9, with a cumulative audience of 349,100, and this would be the Boston Red Sox flagship station. Sitting at number 8 is iHeartRadio's Top 40, KISS 108 WXKS FM, which is down from 5.2 to 4.9. So they're technically tied with 7. They're technically tied for 7th with Sports Radio 93.7. WEEI FM has a cumulative audience of 349,100, while KISS 108 is at 758,700. So those two stations are tied for 7th. And then rounding out the top 10, you have a tie for 9th place. Beasley Broadcast Group's 98.5 The Sports Hub, WBZ FM, with a cumulative audience of 373,700. And iHeartRadio's News Talk 680 WRKO will tie for 9th, both at a 4.0. 98.5 The Sports Hub, by the way, is the flagship station of the New England Patriots, the Boston Celtics, and the Boston Bruins, as well as the New York Revolution of the MLS. They took a little bit of a hit and have dropped their numbers for now a fifth straight month after posting a year high 9.0 back in January. They have been on the decline since. 98.5 The Sports Hub fell from a 4.6 in May to a 4.0, while WRKO is actually up from a 3.5 to a 4.0. So there's your top 10 in Boston. Right below them is Odyssey Adult Hit Station Big 103 WBG BFM, which is down from 4.3 to 3.9 and a cumulative audience of 548,300. They are tied with Beasley Broadcast Group's Hot 96.9 WBQT, who went up from 3.4 to 3.9. Those two stations are tied for 11th. And Hot 96.9 has a cumulative audience of 556,800. In 13th place is Hot 96.9's sister country station, Country 102.5 WKLB-FM, holding steady at a 3.6 and a cumulative audience of 401,000. The main NPR news station in Boston is 89.7 WGBH FM, the flagship property of the WGBH Educational Foundation. They are in 14th place, moving up from 3.0 to 3.4 and a cumulative audience of 282,800. In 15th place is Northeast Broadcasting's 92.5 The River WXRV, which plays adult album alternative. They're up from 2.6 to 2.8 and a cumulative audience of 364,500. This puts them 15th. In 16th place is another station from the WGBH Educational Foundation. This would be classical station CRB Classical 99.5 WCRB. They're down from 2.8 to 2.5. And a cumulative audience of 214,300. In 17th place, it's the competitor to Country 102.5, and that's iHeart Country Station 101.7 The Bull, WBWL-FM, up slightly from a 2.0 to a 2.1, and a cumulative audience of 299,400. Next up is iHeartRadio's sister hip-hop station, Jammin' 94.5 WJMN-FM. And they took a hit once again, falling from 2.5 to 1.9, and a cumulative audience of 351,300. Cumulus's Hot AC station, 104.5 WXLO, which I think is in Fitchburg, if I'm not mistaken. They took a slight decline from 1.7 to 1.6, cumulative audience of 317,300. Crazy Cajuns in the house, what's up? And then after that is the eclectic and adult album alternative format of 88.9 WERS, owned by Emerson College. They're off a little bit from a 1.6 to a 1.5. Cumulative audience of 185,400. Yes. Yes. Damn it. I'm so tired of her interrupting me. Okay. iHeartRadio's Spanish Top 40 station, Rumba 97.7 WZRM, took a half a point jump from 0.9 to 1.4. They have a cumulative audience of 148,000. Next is Beasley Broadcast Group's Bloomberg 92.9 WBOS-FM, which is a business news format. They have been planted towards the bottom of the Boston ratings since launching last year. They're up a little bit from 0.9 to 1.0, and they have a cumulative audience of 131,300. Now, I know the rock format on 92.9 weren't getting great ratings either, but it looks like the business news format they launched on 92.9 last summer is not doing all that well. So yeah, they are pretty much planted at the near the bottom of the Boston ratings. As is EMF's Christian Contemporary Station 107.3 K-Love WKVB. They are down from 0.7 to 0.6 as they see a decline in ratings for the third time in 4 months. Joey's in the house. What's up? And 107.3 K-Love has a cumulative audience of 76,700. Spanish tropical station Power 800 and 102.9 WNNW registers for a third straight month, holding steady at 0.5 with a cumulative audience of 38,900. This station is owned by Costa Eagle Radio. Then you've got Beasley Broadcast Group's WRCA AM, which is now Rock 92.9 HD2, which is heard on WBOS's second digital subchannel. They hold steady at a 0.5 for a third straight month with a cumulative audience of 75,100. So ever since the rock format left 92.9, the ratings for the station overall have been down. And we had just talked about how Bloomberg is struggling on the 92.9 frequency as well. Also with a 0.5 up from 0.4 in May is iHeartRadio's conservative talker Talk 1200 WXKS AM with a cumulative audience of 30,100. And then you have Americana formatted WUMB 91.9 from the University of Massachusetts. They're down from 0.5 to 0.4. Qanda Boston, which is a Spanish contemporary Christian station on WCCM AM, is up from 0.2 to 0.3, and they have a cumulative audience of 13,000. Then you have an out-of-town station, WWFX 100 FM The Pike, which is a classic hits station. They're stuck at a 0.2. That's then followed by the online stream of Magic 106.7, garnering a 0.1, which is actually down from May. WMVX's Spanish variety station, Impacto 1110, WMVX, holds steady at a 0.1, and this station is also owned by Costa Eagle Radio, which also owns Power 800. WNKC, which is another K-Love station. I'm not sure what city this is from, but it shows up in the Boston market at a 0.1, 16,100 cumulative audience. And then you have Cumulus Country Station, Nash Icon 98.9 WORC-FM, holding steady at 0.1. Now this is a classic country station, I think, in Worcester. And they have a cumulative Boston audience of 6,500. And at the bottom is the Channel Q feed of WBG BHD2 with a top 40 dance, EDM, and top 40 format from Odyssey, which did not register in the Boston radio market. All right, we are jumping coast now, going to our number 11 radio market, and that's Seattle Tacoma. And leading the way in the Emerald City is University of Washington's KUOW 94.9. This is the local NPR news station in Seattle. They're up from 7.5 to 7.9, and they have a pretty big lead in the Seattle-Tacoma market. They have a cumulative audience of 384,000. In second place is iHeartRadio's 95.7 The Jet JEB or KJEB, which plays classic hits. They're up from 5.5 to 5.7, and they are a distant second. Cumulative audience of 641,600. In third place is their sister classic rocker 102.5 KZOK, which actually slipped in the ratings from 5.9 to 5.6, putting them in third place. And they have a cumulative audience of 552,500. So this is one of the many markets where classic rock tends to do well locally. In fourth place is Hubbard's adult contemporary station, Warm 106.9 KRWM. They're actually down as well, from 5.6 to 5.2. And they have a cumulative audience of 536,400. In the top 5 is Bonneville Sports Station, KIRO-AM, Seattle Sports 710. This is the Seahawks and Mariners flagship. They went up from 4.2 to 4.7 with a cumulative audience of 342,100. In sixth place is Odyssey Rock Station, 99.9 The Rock, KISW, slipping from a 4.6 to a 4.5, so this is their third straight month in decline. Albeit it's only a little fall each month, because they were 4.8 in March, they dropped to 4.7 in April, then to 4.6 in May, and now they're down to 4.5. They have a cumulative audience of 434,000, but still doing pretty well in the Seattle ratings. In seventh place is adult album alternative non-commercial station KEXP 90.3, owned by the Friends of KEXP. They jumped nearly a point from a 3.5 to a 4.4 with a cumulative audience of 223,600. And that is good for seventh place. Coming in a tie for eighth place, you have Krista Ministries Spirit 105.3 KCMS FM, which plays contemporary Christian music, and Bonneville's News Talker KIRO FM News Radio 97.3. It's really KIRO News 97.3, but you get the idea. Both are at a 4.2 and tying for eighth place. Spirit 105.3 has a cumulative audience of 290,500, while Cairo News 97.3 is at 228,300. All right, Spirit 105.3 took a little bit of a dip in June, down from a 4.4 to a 4.2, while KIRO FM went up from 4.1 to 4.2 to force this eighth place tie. Rounding out the top 10 is Odyssey Alternative Rocker 107.7 The End, KNDD, slipping from 3.9 to 3.8, but enough to hold on to its spot in the top 10. Their cumulative audience is 511,700. All right, just below the top 10, you have NPR News and Jazz Station 88.5 KNKX, jumping from a 2.9 to 3.6 to security number 11 spot in the Seattle market. This station is owned by the Friends of 88.5 FM, and they have a cumulative audience of 242,400. Tied for 12th place, you have iHeartRadio's Hits 106.1. This is a top 40 station known as KBKS. And Classic Radio's classical station, King FM 98.1 KING FM. Both are down this month to a 3.5, tying for 12th place. Hits 1061 dropped from a 4.3, while King FM's decline wasn't as dramatic, down from a 3.7. Hits 1061 has a cumulative audience of 478,900, while Classical King FM has an audience of 241,400. So those two stations are tied for 12th. In 14th place, you've got Odyssey Country Station 100.7, the Wolf KKWF. They're actually down this month again from 3.7 to 3.3. Cumulative audience of 308,900. They are tied with Lotus Communications Northwest News Radio, which is KNWN 1000 AM, which is the station that's listed, and KNWN FM 97.7 out of Oakville, Washington. And their main programming is also fed by KPLZ's second digital subchannel. Northwest News Radio sees a slight increase from 3.1 to 3.3 with a cumulative audience of 220,700. Its sister classic country station, 1015 Hank FM, the aforementioned KPLZ, is up from 2.9 to 3.2 with a cumulative audience of 230,100. The competing top 40 station in Seattle to Hits 1061 is Hubbard Broadcasting's Moving 92.5 KQMV. They are down from 3.1 to 2.8 and a cumulative audience of 439,800. Which I think is more. No, it's lower. Their cumulative audience is a bit lower than that at Hits 1061. All right. iHeartRadio's 96.5 Jack FM KJAQ holds steady at a 2.6 with its adult hits format and a cumulative audience of 520,200. Next up is Lotus Communications Conservative Talker, Talk Radio 570 KVI, down from a 2.5 to a 2.2, and a cumulative audience of 76,600. And then you have a pair of Odyssey stations tied with each other, including classic hip-hop station Hot 103.7 KHTP, down from 2.4 to 2.1, and its hot adult contemporary counterpart, Emma 94.1 KSWD, holding steady at a 2.1. The cumulative audience for Hot 103.7 is larger at 418,300 versus 321,600 for Emma. Hubbard Country Station 98.9 The Bull KPNW is up from 1.8 to 2.0, and they have a cumulative audience of 242,300. Right below them is non-commercial dance music station C89.5 KNHC, owned by the Seattle Public Schools. They're actually down from 2.0 to 1.9, cumulative audience of 143,600. Ahead of them is Bonneville's Conservative Talker, 770 KTTH, up from 1.2 to 1.6, but a very small audience of 67,300. Then you've got iHeartRadio Sports Station, Sports Radio 93.3 KJR FM, down from 1.3 to 1.1. This is the Fox Sports Radio affiliate for Seattle and the Seattle Kraken flagship station. They have a cumulative audience of 128,600. They are tied with EMF's 104.5 K-Love KLSW, which also went down from 1.2 to 1.1. They have a cumulative audience nearly the same as KJR at 125,400. Then you got the Then you have the FM online stream of 100.7 The Wolf at 0.6. KWAO 88.1 Air 1 from EMF is at 0.4, and that's up from 0.3. Then you got Krista Ministries Praise 106.5 KWPZ, also up from 0.3 to 0.4. They have a cumulative audience of 20,900. Sports Radio 950 KJR AM is down from 0.4 to 0.2 with a cumulative audience of 34,700. Below them is their sister conservative talker 1090 The Patriot KPTR, up from 0.1 to 0.2. Hubbard Broadcasting's oldie station AM 880 KIXI holds steady at 0.1, cumulative audience of 26,200. Northwest Public Broadcasting 88.9 KSWS is at 0.1. This is one of the Northwest Public Broadcasting stations from Washington State University, along with KVTI Classical 90.9. Both are at a 0.1. As for stations and streams that did not register in June, that includes Krista Ministries 630 KCIS, which is a religious talk station, and then you have Classic Radio's KING-FM HD2, which is the Evergreen channel, and its online stream. The online stream had a bigger audience than the actual station itself, 5,100 to 3,900. All right. iHeartMedia's Alt 96.5 HD2, which plays alternative rock on KJAQ's second sub-channel, they didn't register. Neither did the jazz format of KNKX HD2, which is Jazz 24, or its online stream. They didn't register either. All right, we have one more market to take a look at, and that's number 12, Miami, Fort Lauderdale. And at the top in South Florida is Cox Media Group's Hot 105 WHQT, which plays urban adult contemporary. They're up from 6.5 to 6.9. They have a modest lead in the Miami market and a cumulative audience of 432,800. In a tight second place, and they actually fell from the top this month, is Odyssey Adult Contemporary Station 101.5 Light FM WLYF, holding steady at a 6.6. But again, conceding the top spot in the market to Hot 105. Light FM has a 750,800 cumulative audience. Cox Media's Soft AC Easy 93.1 WFEZ holds steady at a 6.0, keeping them in third place. Cumulative audience of 684,200. And then in fourth place, you have the highest rated Spanish station in Miami, Fort Lauderdale. And that's Televisa Univision's Amor 107.5 WAMR FM, playing a Spanish AC format. They're up from 4.7 to 5.3, taking fourth place, and a cumulative audience of 432,500. Also in the top 5 is Odyssey Classic Hits Station 102.7 The Beach, WMXJ. They're actually down from 5.4 to 5.3, and they technically tie Amor 107.5 for fourth place. The Beach has a cumulative audience of 595,000. In sixth place is iHeartRadio's Magic 93.9 WMIA FM. This is a bilingual adult contemporary station. They're up from 4.5 to 4.9 and a cumulative audience of 569,400. Sitting at number 7 is Spanish Broadcasting System's Zeta 92.3 WCMQ, which is a salsa and tropical station. They're up from 4.1 to 4.2, cumulative audience of 380,200. So they have been hanging out pretty much in that 4 area in the rankings. So this is one of the top performing stations in South Florida. Below them is Hits 97.3 WFLC from Cox Media Group, which is a rhythmic hot AC. They actually jumped up from 3.2 to 4.0, putting them in 8th with a cumulative audience of 487,900. And then also in the top 10, you have Spanish contemporary station 294.9 WZTU from iHeartMedia, up from 3.3 to 3.9, and a cumulative audience of 399,500. And Spanish Broadcasting Systems El Zol 106.7 WXDJ, which plays Spanish Tropical. They're actually down from a 4.0 to a 3.7, but again, enough to hang on to the top 10 and at number 10 spot. They have a cumulative audience of 417,200. WXDJ's signal is also heard in the Florida Keys on WMFM 107.9 out of Key West. So that's the top 10. On the outside, you've got iHeartMedia's classic rock station and Miami Dolphins flagship, Big 105.9 WBGG FM. Moving up from 3.1 to 3.4 and a cumulative audience of 468,200. They are tied with NPR news station 91.3 WLRN FM from the Miami-Dade County Public Schools. They're holding steady at a 3.4. So both of those stations are tied for 11th. WLRN has a cumulative audience of 219,600, and their programming is also heard in Key West on WKWM 91.5. In 13th place is the country station in South Florida, and that's Kiss Country 99.9 WKIS, up from 2.9 to 3.1. Cumulative audience of 344,700. Next is Cox Media Group's Hip Hop Monster 99 Jams WEDR. Actually taking a decline for a second month in a row, down from 3.0 to 2.8, and a cumulative audience of 365,700. They are tied with Odyssey's classic hip-hop station, Power 96 WPOW, also down from 3.0 to 2.8. And they have a larger audience than 99 Jams. Power 96 has a cumulative audience of 462,300. Next up is iHeartRadio's top 40 station, Y100 WHYI. They're down from 2.9 to 2.7. with a cumulative audience of 468,600. Next up, you have another Spanish Broadcasting System station, and that's Ritmo 95.7, which is a Spanish hip-hop station known as WRMA. They're up from 2.5 to 2.6. Cumulative audience of 321,900. The local K-Love station in Miami is 89.7 WMLV from EMF. They're down from 2.6 to 2.4. And that's after they were at 2.6, which saw a big jump from April. Now they're back down to 2.4. Still doing pretty good, with a cumulative audience of 213,000. Then you've got News Radio 610 WIOD down from a 2.6 to a 2.3. This is a third straight month losing ratings in Miami. Cumulative audience of 136,700. Odyssey's alternative rocker 104.3 The Shark WSFS is down from 2.5 to 2.2. Cumulative audience of 322,700. Then iHeartRadio's hip hop station 103.5 The Beat WMIB FM is also down from 2.3 to 2.1. They have a cumulative audience of 324,200. There you have Spanish Top 40 station Mix 98.3 from Televisa Univision. That's WRTO. They also saw a drop in ratings from 2.2 to 1.9, and they have a cumulative audience of 294,900. And then you have Hubbard Broadcasting's Hot AC station 97.9 WRMF, which is the market leader in West Palm Beach, but it shows up in Miami. They hold steady at a 1.6 and a cumulative audience of 179,900. Again, this is a West Palm Beach station. Next is at Chuladad 1040 WURN from a Chuladad Media. They're down from 1.6 to 1.5. Cumulative audience of just over 100,000 at 104 and 400. Then you have Spanish news and talk station Radio Mambi 710 WAQI from the Latino Media Network. They're down from 1.6 to 1.4. Cumulative audience of 58,000. It looks like neither of their sports stations are doing all that well. There you have Enco Media's WZFL Revolution 93.5. This is another dance music station. They're up from 0.9 to 1.1 with a cumulative audience of 184,200. Next is Odyssey Sports Station, AM 560 Sports WQAM. They're up from 0.8 to 0.9 and a cumulative audience of only 91,200. And this is the flagship station of the Miami Heat, the Miami Hurricanes, Inter Miami FC from MLS, and the two-time reigning Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. Their games are heard here too. Okay, Hope Media's Vida Unida 90.9 WLFE is down from 0.8 to 0.7. This is a Spanish Christian AC station with a cumulative audience of 38,400. Spanish news talker WQBA 1140 holds steady at a 0.6 from the Latino Media Network. Their cumulative audience is 39,200. The local Way FM station in Miami, Fort Lauderdale, is Hope Media's 88.1 Way FM, WAYF, up from 0.3 to 0.5. And a cumulative audience of 59,300. And then you have a tie with Bascom Memorial Foundation's 88.9 WDNA, which plays jazz music, holding steady at a 0.4 and a cumulative audience of 65,000. And Fox Sports 940 WINZ also holding steady at 0.4. They have a cumulative audience of 28,500. And this is the flagship station of the Miami Marlins and a co-flagship of the Miami Dolphins. Alright. Then you have the online stream of Zeta 92.3 at 0.3. Sunny 107.9 WEAT FM, which is another West Palm Beach station. This is a classic hit station. There's what do you say at 0.3 in Miami. Cumulative audience of 74,600. Next is the online stream of El Zol 106.7, also at a 0.3. Then you have at Chuladad Media's La Poderosa 990 AM WMYM registering for a second straight month, up from a 0.1 to a 0.2. Phoenix Broadcasting's AM 670 The Word WWFE, which is now a religious talk station, they're down from 0.4 to 0.2. iHeartRadio's Spanish tropical station La Mezcla 94.9, which is fed by WZTU HD2, they're down from 0.3 to 0.2. Then you have Spanish contemporary talk station Radio Libre 790 WAXY, down to a 0.1 from a 0.2. Then you have the Totally 80s channel, which plays nothing but 80s hits and is fed by Cox Media Group's WFLC HD2. They're at a 0.1. News Talk 850 WFTL, another West Palm Beach station, registers in Miami at a 0.1. And its sister country station, New Country 103.1 WIRK FM, also registering at a 0.1. And you'll be seeing a couple of these West Palm Beach stations at 0.1 in Miami. WLRN HD2, which plays classical music, is at a 0.1. And then Hubbard Stations X1023 WMBX, which plays urban adult contemporary. And its sports sister, Fox Sports 640 WMEN, all come in at a 0.1. Then you've got classic hip-hop station Throwback 105.5, which is on a Miami-based translator and feeds WMIB HD3. They're down from 0.2 to 0.1. The rhythmic CHR format of Channel Q, heard on WPOW's third HD sub-channel, is at a 0.1. As is the online stream of Power 96. Alright, as for stations and streams that did not register in June, that includes the online stream of Kiss Country 99.9. Then you have another country station from iHeartMedia, 104.7 The Bull, which is on a Fort Lauderdale translator and feeds WMIA HD3. And then you have the respective online streams of 102.7 The Beach and AM 670 The Word, which also did not register in the June ratings. Okay, that is it for today. And our next video will be taking a look at Phoenix, my home market, as well as Detroit and Minneapolis, St. Paul. So make sure you join me for that. In the meantime, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Ring the bell and get notified every time I go live. Big Al signing off. Thanks for watching and happy listening. Peace out.